Alright, so I'm going to do a second comic review. Good Boy, I was going to do earlier in the week. I had finished it about Friday, but by that time it was late at night, and I also had wanted to take care of some Patreon requests, so I've been holding off on that review. This is a comic, however, I just finished. Zorro, Swords of Hell. Now, it's kind of funny because I had just done a Zorro book from a different company, so I don't know where I know Zorro is like quote-unquote public domain, but I really don't know where the Zorro license lands, like, for most people. So, maybe it's like King Kong, where it's like public domain, but there are major stipulations. Could be that. But yeah, so this is from American Mythology Productions. And American Mythology is a comic group that I've been aware of for a little bit, mostly because, like, I heard about one of their comics that was like this wild crossover that I would love to own. It's this one-shot comic called The Three Stooges versus Cthulhu. Yes, you heard that right. Three Stooges versus Cthulhu. I cannot make this up. But yeah. So, this comic, they've also done a few other Zorro books, and one I'd really like to read from these guys is they did a Zorro comic that crosses over, Zorro crossing over with a lot of Jules Verne novels, like The Land That Time Forgot, and a few other stories here and there. And I think there's also one where he crosses over with some H.G. Wells books as well. But, yeah. So what is this comic exactly? This was meant to celebrate, like, the 100 years of Zorro. Like, it was meant to be, like, a 100th anniversary. And you may be thinking, oh, cool, like, it's Zorro, you know, going on a wild adventure. Oh, it's a wild one because it's Zorro versus Hell. Yeah, the title, Zorro Swords of Hell, is not like just a fun word, and he's just fighting, you know, criminals and whatnot. Nope. Zorro is fighting demons. Basically what has happened is that Zorro has retired, and he is now getting ready to marry the love of his life. And what happens is that an army of demonic conquistadors rise out of this hell pit and attack Zorro, and Zorro now must battle his way through a multitude of, like, demonic forces. He has to fight his way through, like, demonic conquistadors, a demon panther man, even encountering the queen of the Spanish underworld. It's a lot of things. Boring isn't one of them. It does really do feel it despite being like this story of Zorro battling the forces of hell. It really does feel like a celebration of Zorro. It really does feel like you get all these cool references to characters, villains both and allies of Zorro's life throughout the story, and they're handled very well. I like how the action is used in here. There's a lot of great fight sequences, and again, it's kind of cool to see Zorro battling an opponent that you would never expect him to encounter before. It reminds me a lot of this comic. For some reason, reminded me a lot of Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. Do you guys remember that DLC where it was like a Western story and it dealt with like a demonic zombie army? Yeah, that comic, Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, was like, I thought of that first when I was reading Zorro Swords of Hell. The comic is a 4-issue miniseries, but apparently there are sequels to the comic as well. I don't know if they're in trade or not. It'd be kind of cool to read them. Like I said, I'd like to read the Zorro in the Land of That Time Forgot, the Zorro Jules Verne crossover. That sounds really cool. But the comic itself is pretty decent. I do feel like, even though it is a 4-issue book, it does feel like the ending got wrapped up a little too quick, and that's not just this comic's fault. That is the fault of a lot of miniseries where you only get so many issues that you get to tell you get to tell this story properly. And again, I have heard that there are sequels to this that are out and are coming out. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I did this last Zorro book wasn't really even Diego de la Vega. It was a guy having a Don Quixote complex, written and drawn by Sean Murphy, and now I'm reading a Zorro book where he's in hell. Yeah. American Mythology Productions is, like, I've seen a lot of their books. Like, again, they've done Three Stooges versus Cthulhu. They did Three Stooges Meet Laurel and Harding. They've also done a lot of like. They've also been doing the comic of comic sequel to My Bloody Valentine. They also did Hatchet. They did a Hatchet comic, and I think they're also doing Phantasm, if I'm not mistaken. So they've got some things that do interest me from their catalog. Anyway, so do I recommend Zorro Swords of Hell? If you're a Zorro fan and want to read something done differently with the character, yeah, I would give this a solid shot. There isn't really much I can say other than I think this is, like I said, a great celebration of the character. I think it is a how it utilizes the supernatural with Zorro's whole story of fighting corruption and tyranny. It handles it very well, and yeah, it's a solid book. It's a nice celebration for 100 years. But anyway, once again, thank you, Chris, for this comic, and yeah, hope you all enjoyed this review. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.